Hey, good afternoon. My name is Nicholas Gage, and this is my persuasive pitch regarding the U.S. dependence on foreign electronics. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that you cannot buy a new phone, your car is delayed, your gaming console is unavailable, or important medical equipment cannot be produced because one small component is missing. While this may seem unlikely, it actually happened. During the global semiconductor shortage, there was a shortage of small computer chips that created major problems for industries around the world, and it showed just how dependent we are on semiconductor manufacturing. Semiconductors, also known as computer chips, are actually some of the most important pieces of technology in our modern world. They power almost everything we use every day, including smartphones, vehicles, medical devices, and even military equipment. However, a large portion of advanced semiconductor manufacturing is actually concentrated outside of the United States, especially in countries like Taiwan. This dependence creates risks for our economy, our supply chains, and our national security. As a professional engineer working in the aerospace and defense sector myself, I have personally seen how relying on foreign microelectronics can create challenges for production across multiple industries. However, this issue extends far beyond my own experience. After researching this topic, I have found that government agencies, economists, and even national security experts have all recognized that the United States needs to have a stronger semiconductor strategy. Today, I want to persuade you that the United States should reduce its dependence on Taiwanese electronics by expanding domestic semiconductor production and encouraging supply chain diversification. By doing this, we can strengthen our national security, support our own economic growth, and create a more reliable supply chain. First, I will explain how domestic semiconductor manufacturing improves national security. Next, we will discuss how investing in semiconductor production can actually benefit the US economy. And then I will explain how domestic production creates a more reliable supply chain. Finally, we will discuss solutions for building that stronger long term semiconductor strategy. So, now that we've discussed the importance of this issue, let's look at why reducing our dependence on foreign electronics is necessary. So, looking at national security, the first major reason the United States should invest in domestic semiconductor manufacturing is our own national security. Many people think of computer chips as something used only in phones or computers, but their importance goes much further. According to the Congressional Research Service, semiconductors are critical components in military systems, intelligence technology, secure communications, and other important infrastructure. Without a reliable supply chain of advanced chips, the United States could face challenges maintaining important defense capabilities. This concern becomes even greater when we look at where many advanced chips are produced. So, countries like Taiwan currently play a major role in global semiconductor manufacturing. The Center of Strategic and International Studies explains that Taiwan produces the majority of the world's most advanced semiconductor chips. While Taiwan is an important partner of the United States, depending heavily on one region for such a critical resource creates risk for our country. If Taiwan were to experience a major disruption due to conflict, political tension, or even just a natural disaster, the effects would not stay limited to Taiwan. The United States could experience shortages that affect both commercial industries as well as our national defense. Additionally, the Stimson Center explains that even though the United States has started rebuilding its semiconductor industry, the country still relies heavily on Taiwan for advanced chips. Increasing domestic production would reduce this vulnerability and give the United States greater control over a technology that is truly essential to our national security. So, now that we have an understanding of the security concerns, let's move and look at how semiconductor manufacturing affects our economy. So, investing in semiconductor manufacturing is also an investment in the American economy. According to the US Department of Commerce, recent semiconductor investments have resulted in billions of dollars of being committed to new manufacturing facilities throughout the United States. These projects are creating thousands of jobs in areas such as engineering, research, technology, and advanced manufacturing. These benefits extend beyond job creation because semiconductors support some of the fastest growing industries in the world, including artificial intelligence like AI, automotive manufacturing, telecommunications, healthcare, and aerospace. So, as these industries continue to grow, having that reliable access to advanced chips becomes even more important. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis explains that semiconductors are essentially inputs for many American industries, and that global semiconductor production depends on complex international supply chains. By increasing domestic production, which is inside the US, the United States can help business remain competitive while reducing the risks associated with relying on those foreign suppliers like Taiwan. Government programs such as the CHIPS and Science Act provide incentives for companies to build semiconductor facilities within the United States, and these investments help attract private companies while strengthening America's position in the global technology industry. So, beyond economic growth, domestic manufacturing also helps address another major concern, and that is supply chain reliability. So, as many of you probably already know, right, in 2019 we had COVID 19, which was a pandemic that showed the world truly how fragile global supply chain can be. During the pandemic, semiconductor shortages were affected industries across the globe. So, according to the Congressional Research Service, disruptions in semiconductor production exposed weaknesses in global supply chain and caused major manufacturing delays. These shortages impacted everyday life. Even vehicle production slowed, electronics became harder to find, and some medical equipment faced major delays. So, the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis also explains that semiconductor production relies on a complicated network of suppliers across multiple countries, and when one part of that system is disrupted, it can very easily affect and spread other countries very quickly. So, the problem with relying too heavily on foreign suppliers is that events outside of the US's control can interrupt access to critical technology. Even political conflicts and transportation problems, as well as natural disasters, can create delays. The Department of Commerce emphasizes that expanding semiconductor manufacturing in the United States will create a stronger and more resilient supply chain, and producing more chips domestically will help prevent future shortages and allow American industries to operate more reliably. So, considering the impacts on national security, economic growth, and a supply chain stability, the next step is determining how the United States can build a stronger semiconductor future. Some of those recommended solutions, right? The United States needs to have a long term strategy that focuses on increasing domestic manufacturing while developing the workforce needed to support the industry. So, first, the United States should continue investing in domestic semiconductor manufacturing. The Congressional Research Service explains that the CHIPS and Science Act, although provide funding and incentives to encourage companies to build semiconductor manufacturing facilities, these investments have already helped create new manufacturing projects, increased production capacity, and have created many jobs. Second, the United States needs to invest in research and workforce development. Building semiconductor factories is only part of the solution because these facilities require skilled engineers, technicians, researchers, and even manufacturing workers. The Department of Commerce explains that restoring American semiconductor leadership requires continued investment in innovation and workforce training. Without the skilled workforce, the United States will not be able to maintain the long term leadership in semiconductor technology. And having explored the reasons and solutions, we can now see why continued investment in semiconductor manufacturing is truly essential for America's future. In conclusion, today we discussed how reducing dependence on foreign semiconductor manufacturing can actually improve national security, strengthen the economy, and create a more reliable supply chain. The goal is not to eliminate international partnerships, but rather the United States should build a strong domestic foundation while continuing to work with trusted allies. By investing in semiconductor manufacturing, research, and workforce development, America can become more prepared for future challenges. These small semiconductor chips power nearly every part of our modern life. They keep our phones connected, our vehicles running, our hospitals operating, and our defense systems prepared. By investing in semiconductor production here at home, the United States is not just investing in technology, it is investing in our own futures. Thank you.